Education is not the answer to your questions. Education is the means to answer all your questions. Hello, dear children. I hope you are absolutely fine. Today, I will be proceeding with the previous chapter which we have started, the democratic government. Welcome to the session number 2. In this session, I will be covering up a little bit of recapitulation of the previous session, that is about the legislative, and I will be proceeding further with the two pillars, that is the executive and the judiciary. Executive both at the union and the central, and judiciary consisting of Supreme Court, High Court and other subordinate courts. I hope you are ready to enjoy the ride. Let's get started to learning.
Dear children, before proceeding forward, I will make a quick recapitulation of the previous session. So in the previous session, we had basically studied about the legislature. The term legislature comes from the Latin language where it means the house where the laws are made. So legislature makes laws for our constitution. The union or the central government follows the central legislature and the state government follows the state legislature. Now the parliament or the Sansad is at the center and it has two houses, that means it's bicameral, the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. Again, the Lok Sabha is a temporary house. Members are elected by the general elections for the term of 5 years. The speaker is the leader, that means it's the presiding officer. The Rajya Sabha on the other hand is the upper house of the parliament. Its members are indirectly elected and the leader is the Vice President of India. The members of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha are called the members of the parliament. Now, the state legislature, it can be unicameral and it can be bicameral also. Only 7 states of India, they follow the bicameral structure, in which UP is also the one. Mostly in the unicameral legislature, only the state legislative assemblies are present. The state legislative assemblies are called as the Vidhan Sabha, while the state legislative council are called as the Vidhan Parishad. The next pillar of the Indian constitution is the executive. Executive is that branch which executes or enforces the laws made by the legislature. It is the one that has the sole authority and responsibility to make sure that the laws made by legislature are being followed properly. The executive can be central or state. So first of all, learning about the union or the central executive. It consists the president, the vice president, the prime minister, the council of ministers and the civil servants. The president is the head of the country. However, he is only the nominal head. Why is he the nominal head? Because all the major decisions are taken by the prime minister. The prime minister holds the real power and he is only the head of the council of ministers also. Unlike the US government where the president enjoys all the power. The president of India is considered as the first citizen of the country. The president of India is elected by the members of parliament, that means the members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and the members of state legislative assemblies also participate in his elections. The president lives at the Rashtrapati Bhavan and also he has many important powers. Sri Ram Nath Kovind is an Indian politician serving as the 14th president of India in the office since 25th July 2017. Next is the vice president. The vice president is the presiding officer of the Rajya Sabha. Children, when I was teaching you in the last session about the Rajya Sabha, I mentioned that the presiding officer of the Rajya Sabha is the vice president of India. Moreover, he performs all the functions of the president in the president's absence. That means when the president is not there due to an unforeseen situation or something, the vice president can take over and he can take over all his roles also and he can fulfill all his responsibilities also. Also, when the office of president has fallen vacant on a temporary basis, the vice president can take over the president's office. The prime minister is the actual head of the country. He is the one who takes all the major decisions, and like I said, He is also the head of the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers and the Prime Minister, they work together for the betterment of the country, and they are also responsible for the functioning and management and all the decisions that are made in the Parliament of India. The Prime Minister has a lot of powers which have to be exercised for the benefit of the country. He is the head of the political party whoever wins the general election. A Prime Minister is generally having a term of 5 years, and after the completion of his term, fresh general elections are held and a new Prime Minister is chosen for the country. The next are the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers is an entire unit which ensures the proper functioning of the Parliament. It is the most powerful unit of the Union Executive. It consists of ministers like cabinet ministers, ministers of state and deputy ministers. Every cabinet minister heads a particular department like finance, defense, etc. The cabinet minister heading a particular department has to ensure the proper growth, development and functioning of that particular department, whichever may it be. For example, the finance minister will take care of the Indian economy and the economic growth in our country, and the defense minister has to take care of all the three wings of the defense, that is the army, the navy and the air force. The next is the civil servants. Civil servants are the people who execute the laws framed by the legislature or the cabinet. So these people, they ensure that the people or the common citizens of India, they are following all the laws in their own states and cities. The civil servants are the government employees, but they do not belong to any political party. They include officers like IAS officers, IPS officers. For example, the DM of Gorakhpur or DM of any city is an IAS officer, and his work is to ensure that all the people of that city are a law-abiding citizen. Next, we will study about the state executive. The state executive functions at the state level. It enforces the laws made by the state legislature. Hence, different states may have different laws. The state executive consists of the governor and the chief minister. The governor of a state is the head of the executive of that state. However, he is only the nominal head of the state. Children, earlier also I have explained you the meaning of the term nominal head. That means the governor does not enjoys all the powers. The real powers lies in the hand of the CM. He makes all the important decisions. The governor is just the nominal head. However, he holds a very dignified position in the state. He is appointed by the President of India. A person can be governor of two states simultaneously. Generally, the governor has a fixed term of 5 years, just like the other government systems. At a time, a person can be a governor of two states. Currently, Anandiben Patel is the governor of UP. The chief minister, just like the prime minister, is the real head of the state. He holds lot of power and also the utmost power in the state. He is the head of the political party which wins a majority in the elections of the state. The chief minister has certain important roles and responsibilities. He is the one to take all the major decisions in a state. Responsibilities of the CM include that he advises the governor to appoint any person to a post of minister. The allocation and reshuffling of portfolios among ministers takes place in his office. In case of differences of opinion, he can ask a minister to resign. If the CM resigns, the entire cabinet has to resign. The CM also directs, guides and controls activities of all the other ministers. At the ground level, he is the authority to be in contact with the people regularly and know about their problems so as to bring about policies on the floor of assembly. He acts as the chairman of State Planning Commission. During emergencies like now, he acts as the crisis manager in the state. The Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, as we all know, is Yogi Adityanath ji, and his office is at Lucknow. Now we come to the last and the most strict pillar of the constitution, that is the judiciary. The judiciary is the third and the last organ of the central and state government. Its work is to interpret the law of the nation, that what is right and what is wrong. It ensures that the laws are properly followed by each and every citizen of India. It punishes the people who break or even try to break the laws. Children, on your screens you can see a picture of a woman who is blindfolded, holding scales and a sword in hand. That is a general ideal when we talk about law or the judiciary. Let us understand why is it made an ideal and what reference does it hold in context to the judiciary. The blindfold represents objectivity and impartiality, that justice should be met out without fear or favor, regardless of money, wealth, or power. She holds scales to represent the weighing of evidence. Evidence must be weighted in its own merit. And also, the evidence of both the parties are considered equal. The sword represents punishment, signifying that justice can be swift and final. She holds a sword below the scales to show that evidence weighted on its merit in a court of law comes before punishment. The snake under her foot represents evils and lies, and the book is the law, the constitution from which justice is administered. Hence, dear children, the judiciary is fair and equal administration of the law without corruption, favor, greed, or prejudice. There is an single integrated system of courts in our country for both the union and the states. This system has a pyramidal, that means a pyramid like structure, in which the Supreme Court is placed at the top, that is at the apex, followed by the High Court and then the subordinate courts. The judiciary is independent as it is not under the influence of the legislature or the executive wings. By the single integrated judiciary system, we mean that the Supreme Court is the head of the entire system and it has full control on all the other courts. Even it can make a decision null and void made by any other high court or the subordinate courts. There is no separate set of laws for Supreme Court. For the entire country, the same civil and criminal law operates. All the cases can be taken from the lower court, that is the subordinate courts, to the high court, and then from the high court it can be taken to the Supreme Court. If after the hearing one party is not satisfied with the judgment of a lower court, it is free to move to any other higher court, while the decision of the Supreme Court stands the final. However, in the judgment of a death sentence, the statement can be reconsidered by the President. The Indian Constitution justifies the need of this single integrated judiciary system as it protects democracy. It keeps judiciary away from the legislative and executive to protect the human rights. Like I said, the Supreme Court is at the top. So we will first study about the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is the largest court of our country. It is situated in New Delhi. It is functioning since the year of 1950. The decisions made by the Supreme Court are final and they are applicable to the whole country. The Supreme Court is headed by the Chief Justice of Supreme Court. The Chief Justice of Supreme Court is also called as the Chief Justice of India. He is assisted by 30 Supreme Court judges. The senior most judge of the Supreme Court is appointed as the Chief Justice of India. If required, the Parliament can increase the number of Supreme Court judges to clear the pending cases. That means the Supreme Court consists of one Chief Justice and 30 Supreme Court judges. The judges do not have a fixed term of office like President, Prime Minister or Governor. In fact, a judge of Supreme Court can hold office until he attains, that means he reaches the age of 65 years. They can continue to work as the Supreme Court judges until they reach the age of 65 years. In the pyramid, the High Court comes right next after the Supreme Court. The High Court is the highest court in a state. According to our constitution, each of the 29 states should have a High Court. However, some High Courts have jurisdiction over two or more states. It means that the area in which the power of the High Court can be used can be two states or even more. Children, in the picture displayed on your screens, you can see there are high courts on which there is a star mark. These high courts are the ones which have jurisdiction over two states or more: the Mumbai High Court, Guwahati High Court, Punjab and Haryana High Court. Like the Supreme Court, a High Court also has a Chief Justice and other judges. The Chief Justice of High Court is called as the Chief Justice of the state. The Chief Justice of a state is appointed by the President of India in consultation with the governor of that state and the other judges of the High Court. The number of judges in a High Court differ from state to state. If required, the Parliament can increase the number of judges to clear the pending cases. A judge of a High Court can hold his office until he attains or reaches the age of 62 years. The base of the pyramid is formed by the subordinate courts. Subordinate courts are the courts that function at the district level and below. In every state, beside the High Court, there are a number of other judicial courts to administer justice. These courts are only called as the subordinate courts. The subordinate courts are controlled by High Court of the state. Some of the subordinate courts are Civil Court, Criminal Court, Courts of Revenue, Gram Panchayats and Lok Adalats. The Civil Court is adjourned by the District Judge. It is a court which handles the legal matters which are not crimes. The Court of the District Judge is the highest civil court in a district. It hears both civil and the final judgment of the criminal cases as well. The criminal courts. These courts deal with the criminal cases of the district. A death sentence of a criminal court needs to be confirmed by the High Court of the state. Next in line comes the Revenue Court. Children, revenue is a fixed amount of money that is received by the government. Land revenue is one of the important source of income for the government, and hence the revenue courts deals with the jurisdiction of the land revenue. The Gram Panchayats are found at the village level. They are the small law courts that deliver justice at the village level. 3 to 4 villages have one Gram Panchayat. Both civil and criminal cases are heard in these panchayats. The last comes the Lok Adalats. The Lok Adalats were set up in Delhi in 1985. The Lok Adalat aims at providing a speedy justice to the people, and that too at a very low cost. The main thrust or the main pressure of Lok Adalat is on compromise. When no compromise is reached, the matter goes back to the court. Its role is to persuade the parties to hit upon a solution and help in reconciling the current differences.
Dear children, with this we come to the end of the chapter, the democratic government. I hope you have understood the topics well. Now at the end I want you to learn the glossary and the important points given at the end of your chapter. Remember, the teachers can open the door, but it is you who have to enter it. So dear children, we are trying our best to make you learn and revise. It's you who has to do it after all. Dear children, your teachers love you a lot. So stay home, stay safe, and God bless you.